Hello, everyone. I am here with Pass's very own Tragic.
Hello.
Yeah, and hello, Tragic. We're here with Launchpad 2, right? Launchpad 2 is right
Yep.
around the corner. Launchpad 1, we had seven teams qualify. All great teams are going to be seeing liftoff. But Launchpad 2 looks to be quite stacked. And what better way to evaluate the stackedness of this Launchpad than ranking the teams, right? So I will throw it right to you, Tragic. Which six teams do you think will make it through Launchpad 2?
I mean, in my mind, obviously we have Return to Form, Leon, Hook Resets, Moffin. That's just the two Nassau players, right? Two Nassau players. Moffin did very, very well in last season of NASA, right? He was one of the main standout points for uh, Plink Plonk, right? Yeah, Plink Plonk. And Hook, sadly, was out last season. He didn't play for LC, right? And he was still a very good, solid midfielder, right? Very, very just consistent midfield. And he's back to playing the game. I'm glad to see that. And Leo Leon, I think he's been in every Nassau season, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I would be very surprised that team made anything less than NASA. And if they make Nassau, that's not even a surprise in any way. The second team that I would also be genuinely surprised that they didn't make at least a liftoff and probably is a NASA contender is Quest Esports. We got Hamster Quest moving to midfield, which I'm really weirded out about because I've known that guy as like a goalie player for like the last year now. So seeing him in midfield is going to be an interesting sight to see. And we got Wallaby playing forward. Very. There is one thing I want to say about Wallaby before we get into the thing about how great of a player I think he is. But I'm worried about him this season because last season there was a lot of issues with LLC and him not being there, and that's led to a lot of issues I feel like with LLC. But I think if he's actually going to get a consistent schedule this season, then I think it would be very, 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 very solid forward player. And then we got Zoro. I think that Zoro is just probably one of the better goalie players in the league right now. He's did very good last season in NASA. He was actually probably the person I was most worried about going against as a goalie player in NASA. So I'm glad to see him back this year. Uh, but yeah, the other four slots though are like I feel like the rest of the teams it's so many like teams right that are like all together. There's like 10 teams that I feel like they can all make it. So in my mind, I have to go with personal preference. Because if I don't go with personal preference, I feel like I'm going to like get shit for some of my picks. Right?
All good.
So the first team I want to like shout out because I really want to see this team get through. I've seen them a lot in solo queue, and it is Cyberswipe, the Zoe the Witch, Expochan assertive team. They did play in Launchpad 1, and all of these teams I'm mentioning also played in Launchpad 1. But they played in Launchpad 1. I was really hoping they'd get through in Launchpad 1. Sadly, they didn't make it through. But we did get some other teams that were quite interesting from Launchpad 1. So I'm glad to see them back. I really want to see them get through this season.
As a quick
And
clarification, for Launchpad 1, they were actually playing with Wolfmang instead of Assertive.
oh, was that why? Oh, I've never actually seen any of their games in Launchpad 1. So that's why. Then they'll probably make it through then. Because like I'd be surprised if that team doesn't make it to at least liftoff. Um, but anyway, next team. One of the teams that we've actually scrimmed against a lot, Cat Munch Enjoyers, the Mudflap Sphinx Jewish Asian team. I thought that team, like when we first started scrimming them, like about 2 months ago, I thought they had a lot of issues in the midfield position. I'm not the midfield position, sorry, the defensive side of things, but I guess that's something a lot of teams have. But I think over the last 2 months, I've seen that team get like a lot more consistent at their defensive play, and they finally like got their forward. They're actually trying a lot of forwards, and I think Mudflap was a good addition to their team. So I would really like to see them get through.
And
Next team.
before you go to
Oh,
the next team, once again, another quick clarification is that this week there won't be Mudflap playing. He's out of town. There will be Jules Excel.
huh. Well, this is why I wish I'd more. I should have probably looked at it more, but that still should be fine. I think Jules is also a solid player. He's playing. He's known as the Kazan player, right? Like that guy just plays so much Kazan at this point, and he's really annoying on it. Similar to another player that's also in Launchpad, named Chaotic, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so back to what I was saying. Fifth team. I think this one is again another player. Some more players that have succeeded a lot in last turns. Lions eats bears. Not having Bertram, which I have no idea why they named themselves that without Bertram. Do you actually know why?
They were originally gonna have Bertram, but he decided not to play.
Okay. Anyway, we got Lola Mao in the forward position. That guy, I love that guy. I think it was him that I coached in midfield because he was doing some scuff stuff in position midfield. But yeah, he's a good forward player. Love him. John Fortnite, seen him a lot in solo queue. He's a pretty solid goalie. I actually haven't seen much of Venz recently, but I do think he's a pretty solid midfield. And yeah, I hope they can get through this one. And the last one, which I think is a very controversial pick, but it is probably Corpse Control because Corpse
Okay.
Control, when they are like locked in, right? When Andy is not like doing Andy things, right? I think their defensive side of things is really, really good. I think Zach Smack has improved a lot in like the 1v1 midfield matchups. His defensive play has also gotten a lot better. They have lost a lot of power with Carmine. I think Carmine is someone that definitely helped them a lot, but they're picking up their weight after Carmine's loss, and I think Wee is a completely fine replacement. But yeah, please, Andy and Zach Smack, let's see you guys actually play very well in this one. But that is 6. But I do want to talk about one more team that I really want to
Go
see
ahead.
get in. All right, this is Whiplash, right? The coin Tempo Melon Ayla Lyra. I think it's Tempo Melon. That is going to be scuffed though. We're sorry, but it was Hungry Boy last week. Sadly, we may or may not have poached him. So don't hate me, Ayla Lyra, for that. But Ayla Lyra was someone that I actually coached her in KG. And she did do Launchpad, the last Launchpad for season 4 of NASA and Nassel. She didn't make it. So I'd really like to see her also get in this week. And yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a great set of teams. Now let's kind of try to pick apart those teams a little bit. We can look at the players, right? Are there any players that you think are standout and should be watched specifically, either on these teams or any other teams?
Yes. So the first thing that like when I thought of this question, right? The first person that came into my mind that is not the Hook Resets Lele Muffin team. Let's get that out of the way. I'm not going to talk about them because they're way above the league. The first one I thought of is Zoe the Witch. I saw her like the first time, like way back in draft. If I think it was 4, wasn't it? The one that she won with Asianator.
I think so.
And yeah, and I was like kind of worried at first when seeing her. I was like, oh, she's like a challenger player, right? Like, what does she play? Does she play like the solid picks like Kazan or something? And I was like, wait, she just mainly plays Kazan right now, right? And when I saw her play, I was like, yeah, she actually is pretty good at Kazan, right? Like she's really good at Kazan. And I was kind of worried in the future if she ever went to other tournaments that she would just be one trick banned out. But I feel like she's become more open to playing other characters at this point. I think her Asher is completely fine. She's been able to pick up other picks like Rasmus and X. And it is very like even with that team, right? Like even having those picks is very good, but leaving the Kazan open is going to be a problem for a lot of teams that go against her. So I think she's a very, very good forward player right now. Probably one of the better ones in the Launchpad one. The next pick, and this is non-biased at all. Okay, maybe a little bit biased, but it is Zach Smack. This guy, first of all, name changed himself to my name. So that may be partially the bias. But I do think that since his last time in Nasty, I do think his defensive play has like gotten so much better. Like back and when I watched him in Nasty, a lot of the times what he would do on defense is he would not play to it felt like Andy and Zach Smack were like clashing with each other a lot of the times. They were both covering what they wanted and it overlapped a lot of the time. But I feel like he's improved to the point where his covering is now helping Andy play more the way that he wants to, and it's kind of making it a lot harder to see Andy fuck up as much. And I'm sorry, Andy, if you ever watch this, but I think a lot of people have that opinion. But I do think you're improving a lot, also, Andy, even though you're not on this list. And yeah, the other thing about Zach Smack also is that he's moved away from mainly playing Estelle. He's playing more of these like Kai picks, right? The Kai pick, the Now, these very, very strong speed characters that I think are probably BIS right now on current patch. I don't think anyone really can test Kai as well in most situations, and having Kai on this patch is a very, very important thing, important striker to have in your pocket. And then on the other side of things, in the midfield pool, I also think that Sphinx has improved drastically since like about 6 months ago. Sphinx is a player that I used to dislike a lot in solo queue because his defensive playstyle was really, really lackluster. He really was not the best defensive player, but I do think similar to Zach Smack, he's improved massively over the last 6 months, and especially when he's gotten with this new team, I think that's also helped him a lot. So saying similar to Zach Smack, I don't really want to talk too much about Sphinx is the same as Zach Smack. I think he has gotten a lot better, but the one thing that I didn't mention is that he was a Juno one trick for the longest time. I think he's also picked up a few other characters. The main one I see is usually Jakar. We see a lot of Jakar from him, which I don't think is a good midfield. But if he can move out of those two midfield picks of Juno and Jakar and maybe even go towards maybe Kai or maybe Estelle at some point, I think that would be a good pick. But his Juno is really, really annoying, and I think he's gotten better on the defensive side of things. Those are like the three ones that are like they haven't really made it to NASA. They've been kind of nasty or are newer to the competitive scene, right? But there is one other player that I do want to highlight because I think he is my favorite player that is like higher up on the end, and that is Zoro. And I talked about it a little bit in the what was it? The Quest Esports team when we talked about Quest Esports, where I said that I was a little afraid of a Zoro going into NASA, and I still am. I think he is probably the most consistent goalie in all of NASA, and I think that he's a goalie that is able to get onto Nassel. We'll see if their team actually is able to do that. But yeah, I really, really want to see more play from Zoro. I think he is probably one of my favorite goalies in Launchpad 2.
Yeah, for sure. Zoro being kind of a top player regarded by most people. But let's kind of take a look once again at the teams, right? If we step away from the players, bring it back to the teams. Any teams you think that have good upset potential?
In the middle part of things, like I said before, there's like 10 teams that can get it besides the top two that I've mentioned. But the one team that I think is slightly underrated is probably Edators. Having Fwopnop go to Brawler, we have Color Craze in the midfield, Vladilene and goalie. I think that team is actually just a coin flip on if they make it through. I think they can easily upset some of the teams that are going to be seated higher than them, and they have very good potential of making it. Now, we'll only know when the Launchpad starts if they can do it, but I do believe they can on the mid side. The lower end though is kind of interesting because for me, that middle part like of 10 teams, I wouldn't even call the most of those upsets. Like I don't even think Edators is that big of an upset, but it is a slight upset, right? Because they're in the middle of the pack. But I think one of the teams that is going to be interesting to see if they can upset some of the higher end is actually Titans Rejects. I think they're a team like this is Laz 939, no one for Jakar. I am a little bit worried about that though. Because if Jakar is banned, I don't know Laz's skill on other characters. I hope he can put the Jakar one tricks to rest. We'll see how that goes. But we also have Taste Snowing. I've known that guy for about a year now, actually, way back in when OS coaching was a lot more active. He is also Jakar one trick, but I think he's moved on to more picks, such as Rasmus, I think, is another pick that he's picked up. So I think he's pretty solid. And we do have the Golden. The Golden, he's been playing a while now. I've seen him in solo queue a few times. I think he's an okay goalie, but I think that in general that team could definitely be one of the middle of the packs. They may make it to Launchpad. I don't want to say they will make it to Launchpad through Launchpad, but I do think they can easily take a set off of some of the other teams. And then the last team, which I don't think they will make it through Launchpad, but I think they've improved a lot, and it's an OSAS team, and it's actually a gap team. Sadly, they won't have boon drops on the roster, I don't think, for this. Do you know?
I believe so, just based on how things are listed.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. It is one of my KG students, so a little bit biased from that. Uh, but I think in general they've been playing completely fine. Like I said, I don't think they will make it, but I do think they can maybe take a game off of higher seeded teams. But yeah, on the other side of things, that like the middle of the pack, just for this launchpad, it feels like there's just too many teams that can easily take over each other, right? Like third seed all the way down to 16 seed. There could be random upsets, like the nobodies, for an example. We have Wipeout, Ninja, Roxas, Lucius. They could easily take games off. We have randomly Animal Style, maybe could take a team off, whatever. And we also have Pineapple's team, right? It's a pineapple. Flex gonna give it to you, Tomotaku Sky. We'll see how they do with that. But yeah, that's mostly what I think about the upsets in this Launchpad too.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how that middle of the pack plays out as well, but I think let's kind of turn our attention away from the teams and players and let's just take a look at the meta as a whole, right? We have, since Nassel, right? Launchpad 1 was the first, I guess, quote unquote, big tournament where we've played on the new patch, right? Any thoughts on characters who might be pick or ban worthy with the current map pool and meta?
I actually don't know if the new patch is actually going to be out for Launchpad 2. Do you know
Oh,
if
I'm
that'll
just
come out?
talking about the
Probably not.
whole speed patch and
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, the speed patch. The only problem is I don't know Awakenings. Awakenings will change it slightly, but probably not. But the main pick, either way, is 100% the monstrosity that's been going around in the forward position, and you can even flex it to goalie, Asher. This thing is not in a good balance position right now. It is extremely hard to deal with it on offense. The alt pressure, just way too much damage, too much core control. It feels like when you go against Nasher as a goalie or midfield, it feels like she'll checkmate you in any situation. I will be genuinely surprised if there is a game where Asher is not picked and banned, unless both teams just don't want to play it for whatever reason. And yeah, then you go to the maps like Imi's app, right, that promote more of kill, or even the lane maps such as Tycho, right? I think Night Market's in there. I actually never paid attention to that one. Is Night Market in the pool?
I believe so.
Yeah, the Night Market is also really annoying. It does have crosses, but Tycho Imi's really annoying for Asher, and yeah, and then CTC. That's the map I forgot about. CTC. There's just too many maps that are a problem for Asher right now. And even if you like pick it forward, you still, I mean, pick it first pick, you still don't know if that's going forward at goalie. If you have a goalie player and a forward player both playing Asher, you have to understand that that Asher can be flexed into the goalie. It's just too flexible right now. Um, but on the other side of things, with the flexibility of the forward and goalie position, we have then probably the most impactful midfielder in current patch, which is Kai. After the nerf to now, it feels like Kai's kind of gone a little unchecked in the midfield position. It Without the hit stun of now, it feels like Kai can kind of just 1v1 every single midfielder if he's able to get awakenings that he needs. And even without awakenings that he needs, Barrage is such a strong 1v1 tool. I'd be genuinely surprised also if that pick does not actually so much play, because it's very straightforward, very easy. You shove it into the corner, you play for barrage, you play for your speed. It, it's very, very straightforward, and I really want to see both those picks actually mainly be picked up by most teams.
Yeah, I kind of want to hear your thoughts though. After Kai, right? How do you feel the midfielders line up?
Oh, the midfielders, it's definitely Kai and Now are going to see a lot of play. If anyone wants to play those types of characters that just play for speed and play for 1v1 potential, we're going to see more of that. But even on the other side of things, we have Estelle. If you play Estelle a lot, very solid pick right now. We have some other picks that are also very good in drafts, such as Juno. If certain awakenings are able to come out, if you're really insane or you're twee, you'll also see more Luna midfield pick. Very strong pick in certain awakening matchups. What are the other ones? Imi, very, very strong right now. And that's also a flex pick as well. Can easily go to goalie. And I'm trying to remember if there's any major other picks. I think those are the main ones, which I may talk about another one later, but I
Yeah.
think those are the main ones.
Well, I mean, if those are the main ones, we can kind of get into our next question, right? Which is off meta picks, right? Are there any picks that might be kind of off meta and any players you think would be willing to pilot them?
Yes. The main one that I always come up with, which I think a lot of people do not think is very good, but I think is probably one of the better midfield picks if you know how to pilot it, is definitely Rune in the midfield position specifically, especially on maps like Imezap, a little bit less so on Imezap, but Clarion Corp, Tycho, and even Night Market if you can properly play it with your team. It applies a lot of corner pressure. Banish is still a very annoying tool to deal with. And we also still have Timeless in pool, right? So that's going to be an issue. But there are going to be probably not many people picking it up. The only person I know of that's willing to play room midfield in the Launchpad pool is probably Mr. Flambeau, right? I don't think there's anyone
You also have
else.
Renegade.
Oh yeah, because I forgot that Renegade is actually playing. So we'll probably see from Renegade as well. And then the only other person that I think that's willing to play even Root in general is probably Orion. I'll be surprised if anyone else picks up the pick
Hey, Taco.
because it's not very popular. Taco? Which Taco? Dot Taco?
Dot
Oh yeah,
Taco.
Dot Taco. I can't believe I forgot about Taco as well. But he does play it quite a bit. We'll see if he actually brings it up. I'm interested to see how Taco does it. But there is one more pick that gained a lot of popularity, mostly in EU, but I don't think anyone in NA is going to play it, and that is Asher midfield. It's extremely popular in EU and Tycho. I've seen it so much at this point that I assume anytime Asher picked on Tycho, it's most likely going to be midfield. It just shuts down a lot of comps in there. You can't really shove it through Asher. You can't really play into Asher. You're threatened of being KO'd by Asher on the Tycho map. But the other map that's I think would be interesting to see it on would be something like Imezap. It's a pick I've actually enjoyed for quite a long time. Imezap midfield Asher just kind of makes people like not want to cross, because if they cross, Asher has a lot of kill threat, and it's not like you're going to be going and scoring anyway. You're going to be sitting on that midfield line looking to support the core play. So it's going to cause a lot of issues on that map if you don't respect it. But I would be genuinely surprised if anyone ever picked it. If you pick it, I I I will put your team first seed. Let's just say that. But sadly, you're probably not going to see this video in time. But then the last pick, I did talk about it a little bit in the midfield, but I don't think anyone's really going to play it that much, and it's mostly going to be Luna, unless it's Deadeye start, obviously. We may see one, and we may see like a handful of games of Luna, because I don't think a lot of people like playing the pick too much. But I would really, really enjoy seeing Luna in this tournament.
Yeah, for sure. A ton of interesting midfield picks, right? That are probably less often played. Now, there is one more question I do have for you. As someone who will be waiting for these teams in liftoff and have already been joined by a few from last week, any messages you have to the Launchpad competitors?
The first one, meme, if you ever watch this video, you better get nasty and we better get NASA. If it's the reverse and you get nasty and we get NASA and you get nasty, I may or may not join you depending on what happens. But yeah, I do want to see that team succeed though. I do like all the players on it. It's been very very interesting seeing them. I did scrim in their one team. Both of the other members, the guy that gets and Dragon Claude, great people. I need to actually remember who made it actually Launchpad 1. So you're gonna have to
Modern Magic, Ballin'
Modern
Ballers,
Magic.
Famine F Corp, Ember's Flame, Core Dynasty Party, Yin and Yang, and Flying Blobos.
Yeah, Flying Blobos. That was the other team I forgot about. Flying Fire Madden. Actually, it was good. Nice that he got through on the first one. Barely got through though with the 7th place qualifier. Sadly, not in this one for any teams that make it to losers round 3. But I'm going to be interested to see how he plays with who was
Alpha
it?
Me's
It
their
was
forward and
Alpha Me.
Pensando's
That's
their
who it
goalie.
was. Yeah, Alpha Me. He is a very interesting player because he got very, very popular on the scene after winning ACU with J-Man and Zoro. So I've always been interested in him as a player because he was he worked very, very well with J-Man, and they were actually a problem for that tournament. I think a lot of people adapted a little bit more to them, right? But then after J-Man decided he didn't want to play anymore and he was looking for another team, we actually tried him out for Pass, but he decided he wanted to play with Pensando and Alpha Me, which, yeah, that's fine. I wish we could have had him on the team, but we'll see how he goes in the future. I am hoping that he'll be able to succeed wherever he lands at. Dynasty Party, though, Asianator is the person I've talked to a bit in the past. I think he's a interesting player to say the least. His team of Swaghaver and who's Satala?
That's Mikhaila.
Oh, Mikola. Oh yeah, I've seen them a few times in solo queue as well. I think they're an interesting midfielder, to say the least. I don't know how to feel about them yet. I haven't seen them enough, but we'll see how they go. And Balling Ballers, actually, that's another team I want to see. They did really well, actually. Like last season in Nasty, not even Nasty, Liftoff last season, no one expected them to actually make it through, and they played pretty well like this season, right? They went against Modern Magic, right? They made it all the way up to winter semis, so securing their slot, and they did. Oh, sorry, they didn't even go against Modern Magic, but they did make it all the way to. No, they did go against Modern Magic.
Yeah, and then I think actually no, I don't believe that's the case. They ended up playing against Polar Cortex to qualify.
Oh, yeah, they went against Polar Cortex, and I'm thinking of the thing. But yeah, they're a team that always surprises people because you never like last Launchpad they were an OSAS team, and they just made it to Nasty. And this season they're a Nasty team, and they pretty much made it through very easily, beating up Polar Cortex, a Chaotic Bacon, and Elu Tourist. And that is actually, I never mentioned it a lot beforehand because I think they're definitely a team that can make it, but Polar Cortex, I hope they can do well this Launchpad as well. And then I really wish that Eternal Sovereigns were still in here. I really would want to go against them as well.
They might
and then,
be.
Yeah. And then Famine, F Corp, that was a team that I wasn't expecting to get through. Embers Flames, the Embers Flame is actually probably the team I would love to go against the most because Zert, you probably have known him at this point. Zert's a lot of energy in everything he does. He's a great person to talk to, and he probably is a fun teammate to be with as well. So we'll see how Jay and Wisp can do with him as well.
Well, I suppose that's about all for us, right? Thank you once again, Trajiic, for coming on and joining me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great to hear your thoughts about the upcoming Launchpad and a little bit about the past Launchpad as well. With that, I guess since there's nothing else, see you guys at Launchpad. Don't go anywhere. Bye.